I'm a teacher, and I've been with LAUSD for many years, since 1993. But because I ran for Congress, actually, I had my seniority readjusted, and I was laid off as a result because of these number of reasons, one of which is the budget cuts. They laid off thousands of teachers in the Los Angeles Unified School District last spring, brought some of them back, but 1,200 are still laid off. And I've been involved in trying to get these teachers back into the classroom. We have a lot of unfilled positions throughout the district where students are working with day-to-day subs or not knowing who their teacher will be. My focus in terms of education has been on stopping the privatization of public education, which is just another aspect of the privatization of everything in America, right? And this is the way it works in LA, which is the second largest school district in the country, behind New York. So this is really considered the test case, shall we say, for privatizing public education. What happens is, well, first of all, a school board was elected with a lot of developer money and with the support of Mayor Antonio Villaraigosa that is very pro corporate charters. You may have heard of Green Dot, the Alliance, these schools that are run by foundations funded by Bill Gates and Eli Broad and the Walton family, the Walmart family, also some other very right-wing elements. And these corporate foundations want this market. It's a huge market. Public schools, education, there's a lot of money to be made. Perhaps some are philanthropic in their outlook, I don't know, but the end result is that we are looking at the demise of public education if we don't really do something right away. So what I've been encountering is in LA Unified, we have a couple of things going on. Yes, there's a budget crisis, but in a way it's been used to systematically attack public education and defund it or starve it so that it's bound to fail. If you don't have resources, how are you going to survive, right? What we're seeing right now in LA Unified is budget surplus. Most recently, the school board was informed that we have a $55 million budget surplus. We had 1,200 laid off teachers. Libraries, school libraries shuttered up and down the district. Wright Middle School out in Westchester, close by, shuttered. San Pedro High School, library shuttered. Jefferson High School, South LA, shuttered. There are many, many cases. They basically have laid off many, many librarians and are running the libraries that are functioning are barely functioning for students, with library aides that are paid 3 hours a day so that no one will collect benefits. So they're shuttering the libraries, they've laid off teachers, the students don't know who their teachers are in some instances, and they are what we call restructuring schools. I don't know if you're familiar with this term, but they're seizing schools like Jordan High School in Watts. I believe Westchester High School was restructured. Clinton Middle School downtown. I know these schools now more intimately because I'm substitute teaching every day all over LA. As a result of being laid off, I am now a substitute teacher. As a result of being laid off, I am now a substitute teacher. And what's happening with these restructured schools is this. The district says you're a failing school based on your test scores. So we are going to seize you and we will lay everyone off. So regardless of your union membership, you no longer work here. If you want to work at this school, you need to reapply. Of those who reapply, typically they'll take maybe 10 or 20%. The other 80% of the teaching staff, they become what's called displaced. And they are entitled right now under the union contract to a job somewhere, but they can't get a job because schools are not required to hire them. Now, some may say, well, these displaced teachers, they probably weren't very good, the schools weren't doing well. First of all, these schools face tremendous challenges in the communities in which they're located, and certainly many of the teachers at these schools are good teachers. So once they restructure these schools, there's a lot of instability, which is what's happening at these about 8 or 9 of the schools in the district. Plus, there are displaced teachers who have no work, and there are laid-off teachers who are substitute teaching. So there's just a lot of instability, and what happens is the ultimate aim of these corporate foundations is that these displaced teachers will never find another job in the district, and the schools at which they taught will become corporate charters, non-union. So it's a way of really undercutting the union movement and getting rid of unionized teachers. I have been working with a group in the union, United Teachers of Los Angeles, to make this a front and center issue, defending public education. What we say is, yes, we have problems in our schools, but we need ground up, bottom up reform, not top down in terms of this constant barrage of testing, high stakes testing. I've seen some of these tests, some of the questions. I know that they're statistically very troubled. Some of the things that they want to do is they want to say to a school like Dorsey High School, LA High School, if you don't improve your test scores by such and such, we are going to reconstitute you. We will take over your school. We had a march from Occupy LA up to LAUSD in which we said we are the 99%. We don't want the 1% running our schools, seizing our schools. Because what happens when you have charter schools, and some charter schools are great, I know that. They were meant to be incubators of reform and innovation. That was the initial drive behind organizing these charter schools. But now it's a different story. Now it's a way of draining the public schools of students and shifting the burden of meeting the needs of special needs students onto those that are not corporate charters. There was an assessment done of LAUSD, and they found, the independent monitor, there was a lawsuit and there was an investigation, and they said that these charter schools have nowhere near the percentage of special needs students that other schools have. I was at Crenshaw High School for the last 3 years, 17% special needs. Okay? That's going to affect how you do on some of these tests. There's just no way around it, right? Some of these corporate charters, 3% maybe special needs, right? So it's a way of cherry picking students, concentrating the most challenging students in the public school sector, and taking a huge share of the market and undercutting the union. All of this is happening right now. It's happening in Los Angeles. This is the cutting edge of where it's happening, and we've got to stop it. So we had a march up to LAUSD, a rally. We got a fair amount of press. People are particularly concerned about the fact that there are unfilled positions. Students don't necessarily have regular teachers, that libraries are not open. And we had a number of teachers who camped out in front of LAUSD for about a week in tents. And one night the police tried to remove them at around midnight, and the occupants called Occupy LA, and they came up. They marched at midnight, about 100 of them, to stop the removal of these tents. So where do we stand now? We have to keep building the pressure and building awareness about the precipice at which we are standing with the demise of public education, total privatization. I have submitted a public records request to the Los Angeles Unified School District for the number of unfilled teaching positions. I was called to substitute at West Adams Preparatory High School a few days ago, which is at Washington and Vermont. When I got there, I'm an English teacher. They said, well, we know you teach English, but we need you to sub a dance class today. Now, you would never want me to teach you how to dance. But I said, okay, all right, I'll go with the flow. Then I said, but you know, I'm a little concerned because I really don't know how to dance myself very well. And she said, don't worry about it. You won't be doing anything anyway. So I go there, and sure enough, the kids are just sitting on the floor. A couple of them come in, they go, are you our teacher? They're excited. And I said, I wish I were. I wish I could be, but I'm not. I'll be gone after today. And they said, you know, for 2 months we've just been sitting here.
Wow.
Right? So I took them to the library. Many of them had never been to the school library. This one was actually open, but not before school, not during lunch, and not after school, because it's staffed by a library aide who's not certificated and can only be there when another classroom teacher is there. So I took them to the library to get their books. A beautiful library and all new books. Then I took them to the College Center. Many of them had never been there on their campus. And I came home and I thought about it, and my next plan, my next step, because of some of the lawsuits that have been filed, there is recourse where somebody can file a complaint that must be addressed within, I think it's 10 days or 2 weeks, about a situation like this. So I will. But meanwhile, in terms of this public records request on unfilled teaching positions such as this, I am waiting for an answer from the district. They have delayed and delayed, and I just sent them a fairly terse letter that perhaps if they're not concerned enough, I'll find others who are concerned. So I'm told that I'll know the answer by November 16th. The bottom line is, I looked around and I said, what's going on about this? And others said, what's going on? And we can't really look to anyone else, as you know, to necessarily take the lead. We have to step up. That's just the bottom line. And so we will probably have some more actions down at the school board meeting and continue to push within our union within the union itself. So that's one issue that I'm working on in terms of the Occupy movement. Another issue, and Mila's been working on this with me, is taking a look at where our pension money is invested. I'm a teacher, so I'm a member of the California State Teacher Retirement System. Are there other teachers here? Okay. This is a huge pension fund. It's one of the largest in the United States. They control about $140 billion. And we also have in California the California Public Employee Retirement System. So a lot of the state workers and some of those who work at community colleges are also members of CalPERS. CalPERS is the largest pension fund in the United States, controlling about $240 billion or more. Together they control almost $400 billion. So I was curious as to where the money is invested. Given that California is in such debt, we're looking at something like a $35 billion deficit. So you've got $400 billion here. Where is it? Well, a lot of it's not here. In fact, very little of it is in California. With CalPERS, we have 8% invested in California. CalSTRS a little bit more, 13.7. Both of them very small percentage invested in what we call disadvantaged communities. Communities that really need an infusion of investment to put people back to work. So I'm getting involved in that, inviting others to get involved. I've been taking that to my union. I don't see why, if CalSTRS, the union which I am, if CalSTRS, my teacher retirement system, has a policy, a corporate governance policy, that says we want to promote sustainability, I don't think there's any excuse to have $1 billion invested in Exxon, which it does. I don't think it's right to have $500 million invested in Chevron. And I question whether we're really advancing our own interests, serving the interests of public education, when we are investing in corporations like Walmart, Halliburton, I mentioned Exxon and Chevron and Johnson & Johnson, a lot of corporations, Monsanto, Dow Chemical, a lot of corporations that not only in and of themselves are harming the environment, but are also funding and subsidizing think tanks like the American Legislative Exchange Council, ALEC, which, if you haven't heard of it, this is the premier one-stop shop for reactionary legislation. These corporations fund this think tank, they write the legislation, it becomes generic legislation, which is then pushed in all of the states. So while Wisconsin's governor was taking his inspiration from ALEC, those who were marching around the Capitol, their union, the Wisconsin retirement system, the system in which their union has the retirement money, was investing in these very corporate criminals. Okay? So just recently, Mila was with me. We went with Occupy LA. We took a group of about 10 people to meet with the Los Angeles City Employee Retirement System. Now this is really small potatoes next to CalSTRS and CalPERS. This is a $9 billion pension system. But it too has millions in Exxon and Bank of America and JP Morgan Chase and Monsanto and Dow and Citibank, Goldman Sachs, actually not Bank of America, I stand corrected, not Bank of America. But still, I mean, Goldman Sachs, Citibank, these are institutions that were shorting their own stock when they knew they were selling bad loans, packaging derivatives, selling worthless junk, and shorting their own stock because they knew it was worthless and it was going to go down. So this is where Los Angeles has some of its money. right? So we met with the retirement system, and we said, we want you to divest, and we want you to have a policy going forward where you're going to look at the social responsibility barometer. And the response was, look, we are just basically implementers, executioners. We get our marching orders from the city council and from the mayor, and we have been told that we need to have an 8% return on the investment. And we wanted to lower it to 7.5%. And we got a letter from some of the city council members saying, no, it must stay at 8%. Now, first of all, what we're looking at, it's a real challenge, because what's happening is that municipalities are feeling so squeezed, and with these defined benefit plans, the employees expect a specific return at a certain date, and yet their pension funds have been hiring outside managers who then receive money, maybe kickbacks, I'm not sure, in return for putting money into these bad investments, these junk mortgages, and now the cities are on the hook. Because if the pension funds cannot pay those benefits, the cities have to step forward, or the state, and so there's a lot of tension around this. One of the questions I asked when we met with LACERS, the LA City Employee Retirement System, was, are you suing Goldman Sachs? Are you suing Citibank? Because that money that was lost should be repaid. And they said, well, it's a legal issue, we can't really talk about it. But that's certainly a question I would like answered.